Hi, everyone. Thanks for taking time out of your day to watch this workshop. It will be posted on YouTube as an archived video in case you're not catching the live version. In case you have any questions, you can go ahead and start posting them at the link that's at the top of the video. If you don't want to memorize that, you can just click on the link that's in the description of the YouTube video there on YouTube. So hopefully that works for everyone. So this is Ash. I'm the program manager for the Creative Economy Pilot Project. I think most of you know who I am or we've interacted at some point. Just to give you an overview of what we'll be talking about today, I'll give just a really short introduction, talk about how to get help. We'll do a brief overview of the contracting process. And then we'll spend most of the time at the end for questions and answers. So go ahead and use, again, the link that's in the description of the YouTube video for that. So to give everyone, actually, I'm sorry, before we get started, we do have a few disclaimers we need to share with you. The first is we have done as much as possible to ensure that this information is as accurate as possible. It's possible that it's not 100% correct. It's also subject to change. And of course, if anything changes, we will send you updates. We will let you know. We'll keep the portal updated. Another point is that this stream is going to be publicly available on YouTube. So if you do ask a question that relates to something that you don't want exposed to the public, this would not be the right forum or format to ask those questions. There will be other opportunities. And then lastly, if your project already occurred, this workshop is not for you. If you're trying to get reimbursed for something that occurred in the past, and we're accepting responsibility for the fact that we were a little bit delayed in getting started with administering the grant, go ahead and send an email to support@innovatesac.org, and we will get you your funding. It's just going to be a different process. Not the process that we're about to discuss. So just to share a little bit of progress, we spent the month of December working with grantees who had really urgent funding needs. And we gave those grantees a heads up that we had not yet completely figured out what the contracting process would be, at least in terms of optimizing it. And so about 5 of the 57 total grantees were able to complete that process. And the major thing that we learned is that in terms of dealing with the volume of grantees, where the process bottlenecks or slows down for folks is when we need to do a lot of back and forth. And so really we're trying to invest a significant amount of time in providing these technical assistance opportunities to establish expectations up front. And more importantly, we're actually really confident that because of the experience that those initial grantees went through last month, that we now have a process that is about as optimized as possible in terms of minimizing the amount of back and forth that you may experience. And hopefully this will increase the speed at which we're able to actually get you the funding you need to get your projects off the ground. So again, we do have upcoming opportunities next Tuesday. So during the day, between the hours of 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. here at City Hall, we'll be holding office hours. We're asking folks to reserve a 1-hour block. You should have the link to book time in the email that was sent a couple days ago. And the format will basically be a group Q&A, and then as needed and as time permits, we'll be able to work with you one-on-one. And then secondly, we'll be doing a larger workshop that will have a presentation component that will basically be a version of this presentation that hopefully has a few improvements based on some of the questions that we get from you all. And then we can have a portion for group Q&A, and then also provide additional opportunity for one-on-one technical assistance as time permits. We're going to try and wrap that up by 8 p.m. next Tuesday. You don't actually need to RSVP for that, and you actually don't even need to pass through security. It's going to be in a room on the first floor of City Hall called room 1119, and it's closest to the H Street entrance if you come in through that door or if you walk to the other side. Okay, so in terms of getting help, these are the primary channels where you can get help. We've created this support portal. It's innovatesac.freshdesk.com. While you can create an account, it's really not necessary. It won't really provide you very many benefits. The portal is really there for the public Q&A self-service features that we've created. We'll continue to update those questions as we get additional questions so that that information is as useful as possible. We're trying to create, a self-service where you're not having to email us and wait to get an answer, but we're actually anticipating what your questions are and giving you those answers before you even have to ask them. In case there isn't a question or an issue comes up that you aren't able to answer on your own, go ahead and send an email to support@innovatesac.org. What that's going to do is create a support ticket inside of the support portal on Freshdesk. So if you do when you receive a reply from us, you'll actually see that the email is coming from support@innovatesac.freshdesk.com. Basically, anything that goes to support@innovatesac.org gets forwarded onto the Freshdesk support portal. And then if you really feel like you need to schedule a call, this is actually going to be part of the contracting process. But if you feel like your question you're not able to answer it over email, you can schedule a call at that link below. That link is also available on the portal. And then anything that's urgent, go ahead and give us a call at the number below. I'm just going to warn everyone, we are super, super busy right now. So we're doing everything we can to be helpful, but we really appreciate your patience. But if anything urgent does come up, please give us a call so we can flag any urgent issues. And in terms of future like workshops and office hours, we'll likely have more in the month of February and March, but really we're trying to process as many of these contracts in the month of January as possible. It's sort of a first wave, so that it'll take a little bit of time away from us from being able to provide additional workshops until the coming months. Okay, so now I'm going to give you a really quick overview of the contracting process. Again, if you have any questions, use the link in the description of the YouTube video. You can also, if you can memorize the link that's displayed on the screen, you can type it into your internet browser. Okay, so it's an 8-step process that we've created. So step 1 is really just figuring out who is actually going to sign the contract. Basically, if you're going to receive funding from the city, you have to enter into a legal agreement. And the city, we know the city itself will enter into this agreement, but we need to know who from your team, whether that's you as an individual or sole proprietor, or whether you're part of a larger organization, also known as a legal entity, and that can be a nonprofit, it can be an LLC, it can be some other corporation. It just needs to be a legal entity, and we don't have any hard and fast requirements. And to my knowledge, we haven't excluded any types of organizations. So we have in the past heard questions about, does it matter if it's for-profit or nonprofit? The answer is no, it doesn't matter. As long as the entity can enter into a legal agreement, it can meet the insurance requirements, that's what we care about. Now, the reason why this is step 1 in the process is because everything that follows from here, basically any documents that you submit need to be on behalf of the legal entity or the individual / sole proprietor that you've identified will sign the contract. Unfortunately, we are not able to sign the contract in one name and accept insurance in a different name. That is just sort of, this is just like the nature of contracting. If you haven't done a lot of contracting, it's something that you'll encounter pretty regularly out in the world. Okay, so once you've figured out what legal entity will be contracting, you're gonna have to get the required insurance. So in the portal, you can actually click on step 2, and we've included there examples, and we've provided this in the past. But what you need to submit are these 2 different documents. Number 1 is the certificate of insurance that says that you have $1 million worth of general liability coverage. Again, the entity that's insured needs to be the same entity that's signing the contract. And then there's a second component that is a little less straightforward than getting the certificate and the minimum coverage, and that's called an additional endorsement. An additional endorsement is basically a rider on your insurance policy that specifically carves out the city of Sacramento as being insured or what they call indemnified against any sort of liabilities that may occur. And I'm going to step back for just a quick second, because you might be wondering, why is the city so strict with insurance? And really, the issue is that we're a publicly funded agency. We serve the people of the city of Sacramento, and we put ourselves at risk if, for example, we funded a particular grant project that, God forbid, ended up in some sort of catastrophe. Because the city funded that project, the city could be liable for millions of dollars in damages, and we need to protect the taxpayers who are actually funding this project. And so I won't go into any more detail on that, but just know that it is very important for both the residents of Sacramento and city staff that we have this type of protection. And we know that this is the biggest hurdle to completing the contracting process. And our recommendation is just that you either get several different quotes from various insurance companies and agents that are out there, and in that process that you actually send them the examples that we've given rather than try to explain it. And really, find someone who you feel comfortable working with once you get a good quote, and really just try to follow the process. It'll be worth it once you get through it. Okay, so step 3, once you have your insurance, you're going to want to develop your final budget and narrative. Both of these will be included as attachments in the contract that you have to sign. And so this question has come up like, well, can't I just use the same budget that I submitted with the application? The answer is yes, of course you can. The reason why we're including this is because we want to give everybody an opportunity to make any changes that may have occurred to their project between the time that you submitted your application and the time that you sign your contract. So that's what it's there for. If you want to use the same budget that you submitted with your application, just let us know. But the second piece, this narrative, is going to also be included along with your budget, which is basically a summary of how you're using the funds that we're giving you. So just as sort of a guide, you don't necessarily have to answer all of these except for that third question. I'll get to that in a second. But we just need a short narrative of 2 to 3 paragraphs. And if it's useful, just answer the following questions. What is the purpose of your project? Like, what are you trying to do? Why does it exist? The second is, what actual activities are you going to be engaging in with the use of your grant funds? The third is we want a general sense of where and when these activities will occur. Now, while we're requiring this, you don't have to be 100% sure about when and where, but what it's going to do is it's going to give us a flavor of when to expect your project to come online and where you're intending to place it. And then that way, if there are any changes, that we'll use language that doesn't box you in to those specific times and locations that you've specified. But we want to just make sure there's not like a total deviation from what you said was going to occur. So we're asking for that. And then lastly, like, what do you actually hope will be the outcome or result of funding these activities? So once you've finished your budget narrative, you've gotten your insurance, email all of that in one email with the name of your project and the subject line, and send that email to support@innovatesac.org. In the body of the email, we'll want to know the full name of the contracting individual or entity, the mailing address of that individual or entity, the type of entity that it is. By the way, a sole proprietor is just a legal reference to you as an individual if that's how you're going to do the contract. But we want the full legal name, and then the name and title of the person that's signing the contract. So for example, you might work for an organization as staff, but you don't have contract signing authority. And so when we say the name and title of the signatory, we're actually referring to like the president or CEO or executive director of the organization that's signing the contract. We will continue to include you. So if that is not you, we will still communicate with you as the point of contact. But we just need this to actually complete the contract, because the person signing the contract needs to have that authority. All right, moving on to step 5. So assuming all of your insurance and your budget and all of that is good, we will send you a link to schedule your phone call. The purpose of this review call is to better understand your project. Frankly, they're just questions we can answer over the phone a lot quicker than email. It'll give us an opportunity to explain the process. And then, of course, it's going to give you an opportunity to ask any questions that you have. This other piece is very important. You'll receive an immediate confirmation when you schedule your call. Please call the number that you receive as confirmation, and please call at the time that you've specified. We are super, super busy. Again, it's very important that you call at the time that you selected. Like, make sure you can commit to that, because if you need to reschedule, we can accommodate that, but it's essentially going to send you to the back of the line. There are many, many other grantees that are trying to get through this process, and we're trying to respect everyone's time and opportunity to complete the process. Okay, so once you've had the call, what we're going to do, assuming everything's good, and it should be good by this point because we've taken care of all the difficult stuff like insurance in the past. What we're going to do is almost immediately we'll send you a completed contract with the information that you sent us. So you'll get a copy of that contract. All you got to do is sign and email it back to us, or I should say sign, scan, and email it back to us. We'll include a couple of tax forms that you'll need to fill out. These are simply for tax purposes. So keep in mind, if you're a for-profit organization or if you're an individual, this grant is reportable as income on your taxes for 2018. If you are tax exempt through Internal Revenue Code section 501c3, then you will not need to pay taxes on this. But regardless, we need those tax forms just so we can do our reporting that is required by the federal and state government. And then lastly, in the same email, please include an invoice because that's the mechanism by which we will pay you. And so assuming you get through all these steps, we think that it's going to take at the most 3 weeks. Again, this is all subject to change, but just based on estimates so far and the way that we've optimized the process, by the time you get to here, you pretty much checked all the boxes. So all we need to do is just check our boxes and put your check in the mail. And in fact, you'll probably get it in less than 3 weeks, but we're just saying 3 weeks as a rough ballpark there. All right, so hopefully you've got your funding. Now we're just asking you to keep us posted. I'll just say we don't yet have the platform by which you will submit updates on your project, but we will provide that because we are also in the process of creating this public portal that is linked below, cepp.innovatesac.org. Right now, it literally just has the short description of your project and the contact person. We're going to be providing a lot more information on your projects. And this is really, really important for the public because we want to not only show where the tax dollars are going in terms of funding these projects, but we want to give everyone an opportunity to engage with what's happening in the Creative Economy pilot project. We know there's a lot of exciting work that's coming online, and we not only want to promote it through social media and other channels, but we really wanted to amplify what you're doing because it's very, very important work and it's going to contribute to the success of the project. So very important to keep us updated as after you received your grant funds. We want to know when and where your projects are happening. And again, we're going to have this public portal where all that information will be available so that folks can engage. And then so lastly, let's assume your project's all finished. What we're asking for is to submit your final report. We don't yet have a template or a platform yet for submitting those reports. Obviously we're prioritizing signing contracts and executing those contracts, but probably in the next couple months we will have that mechanism in place. We don't expect that it's going to be super complicated or long or time consuming or anything like that. We just want to know, and this is sort of matches up with your budget narrative. We're both wanting to compare the budget that you had proposed with the actual expenditures that you made, and then with your budget narrative, what is it that you said you were going to do, and then what is it that actually happened? And then most importantly, in terms of results, did you get the results that you were looking for? Did you not? We're going to get into more detail on this as we get to it, but we do want to acknowledge that failure is acceptable. You can be, we want folks to be ambitious about what we're trying to achieve, but we also want to be realistic about what happened because this is a learning process both for the city, for the community, and for the public to understand the value of this pilot project. And ultimately, we're going to aggregate all of this information and we're going to provide it to the city council, and it's going to be up to the city council to determine whether or not this creative economy pilot project becomes an ongoing program for the city. And so again, obviously we want things to be successful, but we also want to highlight failure when that occurs. And don't be afraid to fail. As long as you're failing in terms of trying to be really successful in catalyzing the creative economy, it's really valuable information. So we are already at the question and answer portion. Just so you know, this link up top is going to disappear, but I put it in the slides. So I am now going to pull up the questions, see if there are any. All right, we got some questions. Okay, so how long after submission of required documents does it take to get a review call? Good question. The challenge that we're facing right now is we're just backlogged um, over the next couple of weeks. We may be able to squeeze in a couple of folks next week, but it's probably going to be the week after. Let me pull up my calendar here. So this all assumes, you're ready to go right now, which we weren't actually sure how many folks would be ready to go right now, but we'd be looking at the week of January 22nd in terms of like really having some opportunities. If you are able to attend office hours or workshops and your documents are completed, we'll be able to answer questions there. Um, so in general, though, after we get through this backlog, we estimate that it should only be about a week out that you'll be able to get a review call. So we're not expecting like months or anything like that. Okay, so this is a good question. So I recall earlier that instructions mentioned registering as a vendor. Is this a separate process or no longer required? Great question. That part we learned was really confusing. And so becoming a vendor is as simple as submitting your tax forms. I don't remember which step that was. Let me see real quick. So this is step 6. When you submit your W-9 and 590, we're just going to go ahead and automatically set you up as a vendor. Don't worry about any other process that might be associated with that. Okay, so then this new question is, so if your documents are completed and you attend a workshop, will it qualify as a review call? So the devil's in the details on that one. Basically, if we feel confident that we understand the nature of your project, then yes, it will qualify. If for some reason you come to the workshop and the information is incomplete and you have to resubmit new information, we're still going to have to verify that. So, and at that point, we may or may not, we may be able to do it without a review call. We may be able to do it by email. It really just depends. So for example, if the issue you run into is super complicated, then it probably wouldn't qualify. We'll probably need to set up a review call. If it was very minor and you're able to fix that issue, then yes, you will not need to set up a review call. All right, I'm not seeing any more questions, so I'm going to give it just a few more minutes here. And if you have any more questions, go ahead and ask. If not, I'll be signing off. All right, I'm not seeing any more questions, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. Hopefully you can attend either office hours or a workshop on Tuesday. Again, we hope this has been helpful. All of the information will continue to be updated at the portal. And thank you for your time, and we look forward to supporting your projects.